Before I get into my thoughts and whether I was right or wrong on these counts in Council Bluffs in Vegas, it's important to note that these are small samples. So it was 5 or 10 hours in each city. It's not like it was 500 hours of counting in each city. That would be a lot better. So for every count, the explanation could just be small sample. It won't be like this, you know, if I counted for 1,000 hours each or something. Day 1 was hands dealt. I thought it would be more in Vegas. It was less. It was 171 in 5 hours in Vegas. It was 202 in 5 hours in Council Bluffs. 2 reasons I suspect this. One was that in Vegas it was Mandalay Bay where I was playing for a lot of it. Mandalay Bay has a lot of people who don't know the rules, who don't play often, and a woman just thought the camera was turned the other way and didn't want to get in the way of the shot. And so that takes a lot of time. They often don't act until the dealer is staring at them, which makes for a good game because they're new, but it makes for a slow game also. Also, in Council Bluffs, people know when it's their turn. Even though a lot of hands go to the river and there's a lot of showdowns and a lot of all-ins, those people play all the time. So they never need the dealer to tell them it's their turn. They might be like watching the TV for a second, but if they're paying attention to the table, they know when it's on them. So even though a lot of hands go 4 streets and a lot of hands are multi-way a lot of the time, people know when it's their turn to act, and the dealers don't have to do much in keeping the game moving. Day 2 was tips. I thought it would be less in Vegas, and it was. It was 192 tips in Vegas in 5 hours, $208 in tips in 5 hours in Council Bluffs. I think there's a bunch of reasons. One, Vegas has some more like hardcore people thinking about their bottom line. They just don't tip or tip very infrequently. There's not a lot of like rapport as much with players and dealers like there is in a small room in Council Bluffs. A lot of hands, even raise and everyone folds, and you win $4 in Council Bluffs. A lot of those hands get tipped out in Iowa, and not so much over here. Also, the stacks, you know, when there's all-ins out here in Vegas, a lot of them are like one of the shorter guy is between like $50 or $150, so those hands don't get tipped as much as all-ins in Council Bluffs, where guys will lose like $500 at a time. So a lot of reasons why I thought the tips would be less in Vegas, and they were, although they weren't that much less. I mean, it was only $16 in 5 hours, so it really wasn't that much of a difference. The day 3 count was all-ins, and I got that one wrong. I thought it would be much fewer out here in Vegas than in Council Bluffs. It was more. It was 22 out here in Vegas in 5 hours. It was 15 in 5 hours in Council Bluffs. One thing to note is the depth of the games were a lot deeper in Council Bluffs. So say there's a hand where a guy's willing to lose $200. In Vegas, that probably means all in, because he probably has $200 or a shorter stack than that to start the hand. In Council Bluffs, the guy probably has 600. So it's still a good game. He lost 200 of it in one hand, but he didn't come close to getting all in. So that's one factor that wasn't accounted for. Also, a lot of my time that day when I counted in Vegas was at Mandalay. Mandalay has a lot of players who are convention personnel who don't quite know the rules so much. They buy in for the minimum, so it's easier for them to get all in for $100 than in like 2-3 in Council Bluffs, where guys sit with 6, and if they lose one hand and drop to 550, they top up back to 600. So those 2 factors made the count in Vegas actually result in more all-ins than Council Bluffs. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here in part 1 of this wrap-up is chops. And I actually did a good job explaining this in the Council Bluffs video. I didn't do a great job explaining this in the Vegas video. It wasn't actual chops. It was chop opportunities when it folded from under the gun through the button. Because out here, there are some rooms where you can't chop, and in Council Bluffs, a lot of people will run out the board, small blind versus big blind, hoping for a high hand promotion, which never happens, by the way, and is a massive, massive waste of time, but they do it. So it was chop opportunities. 27 out here in Vegas and 13 in Council Bluffs, and I feel like for this one, you know, there wasn't something unaccounted for. It's a very good indicator of how many hands people are playing, you know, in early position, in middle position, and late position. When the number is less, then there's going to be, you know, 6 people in a row not playing a hand and leading to a chop opportunity, small blind versus big blind. So Council Bluffs, more people play more hands, and in Vegas, people play fewer hands all around from all positions, and it resulted in more than twice as many chops when I counted.